Good evening. The Tuesday, May 28th, 2019 meeting of the Marquette City Commission is now called to order. I would ask everyone to stand with the commission and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Clerk, if you will please read the roll.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Campana? Here. Commissioner Frazier? Here. Commissioner Hill?
Here.
Commissioner Schlegel?
Here.
Commissioner Smith?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Reynolds?
Here.
And Mayor Stonehouse.
Here. Commissioners, the agenda is in front of you. If I can have a motion for acceptance or change thereto, Mayor Pro Tem Reynolds,
I move that the agenda be approved.
Commissioner Smith,
Second.
Mayor Pro Tem, any comments?
None.
Commissioner Smith?
None.
Any other commissioner comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Any opposed by no? Motion passes 7-0. That brings us to announcements. I do have a list of vacancies on volunteer committees and boards. Arts and Culture, 1 opening. Board of Zoning Appeals, 3 openings. Board of Review, 2. Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, 2. Harbor Advisory Committee, 1. The Housing Commission, 1. Investment Advisory Board, 2. Local Development Finance Authority, 2. Local Officers Compensation Commission, 1. Marquette County Transit Authority, 1. Presque Isle Advisory Committee, 3. And the Traffic and Parking Advisory Committee, 1 opening. I encourage citizens to consider applying for one of those positions. You can really serve your community by being on one of those boards and committees. We take the work of those committees extremely seriously at the commission, and it's a wonderful way to become involved in city government and to really help your city. So please consider that. That then brings us down to welcoming a new member of one of the committees, and that's Mr. Brian Varney. Bryant, if you can please come to the front. Brian, on behalf of the citizens of Marquette, welcome to the committee. We deeply appreciate you serving on the board of review. And I do have this very special pin. And this is a pin that if you wear it, it's a City of Marquette pin. It gives you superpowers. So use it with moderation, please. And you now will be sworn in as a committee member, and our assistant clerk will do that.
Just want to step around the back here. Do this real quickly. If you just want to raise your right hand and read that out loud.
I, Bryant Varney, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Michigan, and the Charter of the City of Marquette, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of the Board of Review of the City of Marquette according to the best of my ability.
Thank you. So you just want to sign that? And then you can keep here. This one. You can sign and keep that one. We'll sign it off here. 1, 2. This one. Thank you.
Next item is item 2, appointments, and that will be Mr. James Sousanet to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board for a non-expired term ending 1/29 of 21, and Jeremy Johnson to Arts and Cultural Advisory Committee for a term ending 06 of 01 of 19. Commissioners, what is your pleasure? Commissioner Hill?
I move that we appoint these 2 gentlemen to the committees as assigned in the agenda.
I need a second. Commissioner Smith?
Second.
Commissioner Hill, any further comments?
I appreciate your service. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Smith?
No additional comments.
Any comments, any other commissioner? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes. Yes. Any opposed by saying no? Hearing none, motion passes 7-0. That brings us to our first public comment session. Comments may not exceed 3 minutes per person. Please state your name and physical address when making public comments. Public comments are open.
Frank Jeff Eder with 350 East Ridge, Marquette, to speak on item 11. These are my opinions. Last month, the bar cordoned off our sidewalk for their private event, 2 years in a row now. This board was told back then, but let it recur. Like the missing sidewalk at 340 East Ridge, this board showed no compassion for those in wheelchairs. This year, the police investigated and learned the city issued an improper permit. Our police performed so admirably, they not only called me back, but pursued the matter afterward. If this board operated with that proficiency, we'd be further along. Sadly, there wasn't time to mention this on May 13th when the room full of officers was present. That time was taken to detail Mr. Stonehouse's breach of public process. We now know that most of the reallocated million from College Ave did not go toward Lighthouse Park as promised, but to 2 parking lots and road work that's not on park property. It gives us little more than what we had compared to what it took. College Ave residents ought to be outraged that the funds diverted from them were largely wasted. We're left with the eyesore I warned this board to avoid. The manager is wrong. Not everyone will like the end result unless we plant mature shrubs west of the road to buffer the treatment plant. Laying asphalt over most of that cleared area won't provide a happy result. As of Sunday, the fence was still there, what most of us wanted removed first. If we had a manager, he'd have attended the meeting, thus prioritized according to the wishes of those who wasted our time commenting. May 13th, Mr. Stonehouse neglected to explain why he broke his May 14, 2008 promise that there'd be plenty of time for public input on Parcel 2 and sensitivity would be used. He failed to do so at either reading, April 29th or October 9th, when I said, quote, "Unbelievably, again, no decent depictions appear in our packet." Others also commented on this just to see this board neglect to provide depictions again on April 29th. For Mr. Stonehouse not to reply to allegations of such blatant misconduct is unacceptable. He spends too much public comment time doing unrelated work to know or care how we feel. Not only were we denied our promised opportunity, but no effort was made to discuss how sensitivity could be used. This chair refuses to respond because there is no response other than to admit mistruth. He refused to ask for drawings or delay the reading because the architect calls the shots. He received the golden ticket to do as he pleased, as he's been for every project he's ever applied for. Finally, 2 visitors happened to comment to me about the ugly backs of the condos that block our view. They brought it up. Mr. Fraser's logic meant nothing to them that they could see the lake from east of the condos. Newcomers aren't aware of that. This is another consequence of this board's chronic refusal to act upon credible public input.
Anyone else to address the commission?
Good evening, George Meister with GEI Consultants. Just here for item, I think it was 11. Yep, to let you know that we're here as well as a representative from Cocosine Marine if you have any questions on that.
Thank you. Anyone else to address the commission? Seeing none, public comment is closed. That brings us to item number 3, which is the American Legion Post Marquette Junior Wildcat Boys 14U Tier 2 Hockey Division Team, the 2019 Michigan Amateur Hockey Association State Champions. Hold 1 second. I need to explain this. I need to explain this for some of the folks here that are not connected with the hockey team, and certainly for the folks at home, so they understand what they're going to be privileged to watch. The Marquette Junior Hockey Program is very proud of this year's 14U AA hockey team, the Marquette American Legion Post 44 Junior Wildcats. This is the first season to feature the rebranding of Marquette Junior Hockey to the Junior Wildcats, and it came with renewed community energy along with much success. The team has had an exceptional season with an overall record of 55 wins, 5 losses, and 2 ties. I'll say that again, 55 wins, 5 losses, and 2 ties. That is incredible. They took first place in 4 tournaments throughout the Midwest, were the first in their division, and were the Northern International Hockey League champions. The junior Wildcats went on to secure the state title in Port Huron by shutting out the Chelsea Chiefs 6-0 in the final game. This was the first state championship at the U14 AA level in 24 years for Marquette junior hockey. The team advanced to the USA Hockey Youth National Playoffs held on April 4 through 8 in South Bend, Indiana, and made it to the semifinals. They placed third in the nation after a 3-2 loss to New York. Thousands of viewers in our community and across the country who were watching and incredibly proud of this team's accomplishments the entire year long. Tonight, we are here to recognize and to congratulate the American Legion Post 44 Junior Wildcats as the 2019 Michigan Amateur Hockey Association 14U AA state champions and bronze medal winners of USA Hockey National Champions. Gentlemen, please come forward and line the dais. Please come around so they can see you. Coach? Gonna be tough without a microphone. But I need to give you an official certificate of achievement on behalf of the City of Marquette for the tremendous job you fellas did this year. You all did this year. It is incredible. You have done the City of Marquette proud. You have done everyone proud. You have been a tremendous representative not only of the Upper Peninsula, but again, the County of Marquette, and the City of Marquette. We also have for each one of you a certificate of achievement. If you, Coach, if you can take care of making sure the team members get that. Again, reflecting our honor in what you have done. Thank you very much.
Excellent job, guys.
You don't have to stay, please. Our next item is number 4, which is an update on the new Rice generation and retirement of the Presque Isle Power Plant by Richard Rayborn, the Director of the Upper Michigan Energy Resources Corporation. Mr. Rayborn, you could please come up, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Again, my name is Richard Rayborn, the Director of Upper Michigan Energy Resources Corporation. Probably for the remainder of this presentation, I'll refer to that as UMERC for short. I'd like to go over some of the history of our company and some of the projects that we're working on and give you an update on Presque Isle Power Plant. So I'd like to start with kind of our company structure. You can see here that our parent company is WEC Energy Group. And if you look just to your, just below that to the left, you'll see Upper Michigan Energy Resources Corporation as an electric and gas distributor for Upper Michigan. UMERC began operation in 2017. We have about 41,000 customers, both natural gas and electric, in the little geographic area that you see there in the yellow. And by forming UMERC, these customers, which were once served by WPS and We Energies, are now served by UMERC, which is regulated by the Michigan Public Service Commission. So that streamlines a lot of things for us when we can go through one regulatory and government body. Our newest project, which I think most of you are familiar with, is the installation of about 180 megawatts of clean, natural gas-fired rice engines in 2 locations, one in Marquette and one in Bariga. Just to simplify how these engines work, it's a lot like your car engine. It's just a really bigger version of an automobile engine. So all the things you would expect, like a fuel, which instead of gasoline, it's natural gas. These are air-cooled, but they work just like your car engine works. This project was approved in October of 2017. The estimated investment that we'll have when the project is over is about $275 million. We achieved commercial operation on March the 31st, so just under 8 weeks ago. And on the same day, we were able to retire Presque Isle Power Plant. So you can see from this map the 2 locations of our 2 facilities. The FD Custer facility is the one that's here close by in Negaunee Township, and then the AJ MEM generating facility is the one in Bariga Township. So this is all part of a strategy that our company has on reshaping our generation. So we're trying to retire older fossil fuel plants that we have. We're trying to build state-of-the-art generation, and this RICE technology that we're using is certainly part of that strategy with state-of-the-art investment. And we're also trying to achieve zero carbon emissions, which for that piece of our generation reshaping, we're really looking towards solar energy. But our strategic goals for this reshaping of our generation are to reduce cost to customers, to preserve our fuel diversity, and to reduce carbon emissions. So one of the things I think you're interested in is what has been going on with Presque Isle Power Plant over the last 8 weeks or so. So the activities that we have completed are we've de-energized plant systems. This would be things like the steam system, the cooling water system, the coal conveying system, air compression system, things like that. We've removed equipment and tools from the site, and we did this by participating in an online auction for industrial parts and tools. We've donated our office furniture and our supplies. I know we've done some donations to local schools and to the Marquette Habitat for Humanity. We've also removed oils and chemicals, and we continue to remove some ash material from the site. And we've modified our fire suppression system. We worked with the Marquette Fire and Rescue Department because we are now using a dry hydrant fire suppression system instead of a more typical and conventional one, since we don't have adequate electricity now at the site. Ongoing activities that we have planned are the third of 3 landfills will be capped this summer. So at the end of the summer, we will cap that landfill. We're still disposing of some ash into that landfill right now. Once that's capped, we'll continue to monitor it from an environmental standpoint. I think we have about 58,000 tons of coal on site now, and all of that is being sold to Cleveland Cliffs. 1/3 of that will be gone from the site and over to Cleveland Cliffs by the end of this year, and the remaining 2/3 by the end of 2020. We're also able to sell a lot of the ash that is at the site, and we'll continue to do that through the end of the summer. We'll continue to have security on site, so we'll keep the site secure so no vandalism or anything like that can occur. So what's next? We're about to begin a hazardous materials assessment. That'll take some time to go on. We're trying to define the scope of that and the cost of that, and that'll include some asbestos removal. We should know more about that study by the end of the year, and we'll begin doing abatement activities in 2020. So long-term plans for the site, there will be some systems that will remain in place. There's an ATC substation that will remain. There's a ship unloading facility that will remain. We're planning on tentatively to schedule demolition to start in 2021 after our abatement study is complete and we've been able to go through our hazardous waste removal. And then we'll begin to start entertaining options for the future site plans. Just know that we haven't spent a lot of time on that because our focus for the last 8 weeks or so, and the focus for the next several months will be on either decommissioning the plant and then our hazardous waste abatement. So are there any questions from anyone?
Commissioners, questions? Commissioner Hill.
Thank you. Thanks for coming in to bring us up to speed on a very important part of our community that's been there for a very long, well, it's what, 60, 70 years that the plant has been there?
1950s, I think.
Yeah, and provided a lot of service to the entire Upper Peninsula over the years. And so I have a couple of questions. One, a colleague brought to my attention that with so many coal plants being retired, Pennsylvania, the state of Pennsylvania has actually developed a playbook on what they call a playbook on coal plant retirement that includes economic development as part of that conversation. So beyond the technical scope, which you are rightly dealing with right now, but there's a lot of questions about the economic consequences. Certainly the tax considerations have been considerable for the city. Do you know your company will continue to pay taxes on the building while it was standing, and then what happens when it comes down?
So I know we've been working with the city on property taxes since we announced the retirement back in 2015. And so the amount of property taxes that we pay is based on the value of the property. And certainly as decommissioning happens, then the value of that property will decrease. The latest information I have is that I know we just came to an agreement with the city for the 2018 property tax valuation and for the 2019 property tax valuation. I'm not privy to the numbers of what that equates to as far as property tax, equates to. But I do know that we've been working very closely for 4 years now to make sure that there's some kind of declining and over time on how much tax we pay based on the value of the property.
And when the building comes down, there will continue to be taxes, but it will be a different number.
That's right.
Yeah. And do you see, I understand you're maybe not there yet, but you probably aren't in the land development business. You'd probably sell it to a developer. Is that fair to say?
We are not in, those two things are very true. We are not in the land development business, which means that our options would be to probably sell to some type of land developer.
And thank you, too, for the update on the ash disposal. That was a big concern. That's a very significant region with
Sure.
it being the mouth of the river.
I just want to make sure that everybody heard me when I said that we will continue to monitor those, those landfills that are on site. So we'll be well within environmental regulations on that for the duration.
And then, what happens when the property's sold?
So that will all be part of the hazardous waste abatement scope that we're doing, and any of that will be negotiated into whatever happens to the property after that.
Two more questions.
Sure.
One is, and then I've also had folks ask, what happened to the Falcon boxes on the smokestacks? Has something? Are they being used this year?
Jenny, do you know the answer to that question? I do not.
The Falcon box and anymore.
Okay.
Okay. So, and it's a lot of, and it was great that you had them, and thank you. That was an important piece to have. The peregrine falcons were nesting on the side of this, and there was even a webcam you could watch them.
Yep.
And then the last question I have is the union, the IBEW, had a letter to the editor a couple of weeks ago expressing concern that the workers at the plant did not receive the same deal and package with the closure of the plant that some of their Wisconsin colleagues had. Can you speak to that issue?
I won't comment on the article that was in the paper, but I can tell you that we worked very closely with the 100+ employees that were there. I know that upwards of 20 employees took jobs elsewhere in the company. Once we made progress on our new generation. I do know that 6 employees that were former employees of PIP are now employees of the operation contractor that we have for the 2 new facilities. So we've worked very closely with Michigan Works, I believe, to help with job placement, and we held a job fair at a local motel, I think, which employees were welcome to come to apply for jobs there. So we've worked really closely with the union to find placement for employees.
Thank you.
Any other, Mr. Campana?
Again, thank you for coming here tonight
Sure.
to address us.
Thank you.
The big question on everybody's mind in Marquette and surrounding area is, what's going to happen to the Presque Isle Power Plant? Once it's shut down, now it's shut down. We assume it's going to come down. Nobody wants to see it sitting there empty and idle. My question to you, I guess, is you have other coal plants in other communities that you have idled and shut down. You have correct? You have
Yes.
done that? The most recent ones, what communities have you done recently, and what have you done with them? I mean, how far, just to get an idea where you're, what you can be doing.
Yeah, so we did close down a facility in southeast Wisconsin. That facility is not too far ahead of this one. That was just this past year. So, again, we're still going through all of the hazardous waste abatement, shutting down systems.
What town was that?
That's near Kenosha. Pleasant Prairie, Kenosha area.
Sun Prairie?
No, southeast Wisconsin.
Yeah, what's the name of the town, though?
Pleasant Prairie.
Pleasant?
Yes.
Kenosha.
It's just north of the
Where
Illinois-Wisconsin
is it,
border.
Kenosha? Okay.
So that, like I said, that project is not very far ahead of this one. So, our focus is to close down the plant like it should be closed down, take care of any hazardous waste material that's found. So, we're not far enough along with that project either for us to really know what's going to happen with that property. I will tell you that it is on our radar screen. It's very important to us. We realize how important the relationship is between the facility here and the city and how long it's been around. The property is prime property. We don't plan to abandon it and have blight or anything like that for people to drive by and see. So we will work very closely with economic development agencies, with the city, and we'll keep you informed on our progress. It just isn't to that point yet.
Do you have a company that comes in and dismantles the buildings?
There are companies out there to do that. Right now, we have not made any plans to hire a company to come in and do that. We're doing all of the decommissioning ourselves right now, but that's something that we would certainly entertain.
Are you doing it in Kenosha?
Again, we're not far enough along with that project.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm not trying to be evasive about my answers. Truly, we just aren't that far. I mean, the plant's only been closed for less than 8 weeks.
How about older plants, other places?
I don't, within our service territory, I don't know that there are any, that any coal-fired plants that we've, not in my time here.
I was just wondering what the timetable is, how it's done. At what point does somebody come in and tear it down, remediate it?
Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier in the presentation, that would come probably into the 2021-22 timeframe.
Okay.
So 2 to 3 years out.
Last question, this is a fairy tale question. Any chance that anything could be done there to revitalize it, to have a use for it? I know they're unloading limestone now, but there are no future plans for that particular area.
Not that I know of.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Sure, Mr. Smith?
Thank you for coming, Richard. I really appreciate you
Absolutely.
informing the commission. I know it's, you've got a lot of things you still have to figure out. One question I'm wondering is, how many employees do you still have on site working right now?
There are 4 employees on site
Just
right
4?
now.
Okay.
Four company employees, then we do have the contractor security.
Okay. So you've got some folks still around
We
there.
do.
And then my other question is, if you could possibly come back and give us updates from time to time, I'd really
Absolutely.
appreciate that. Maybe once a year or every 2 years or whatever that might look like.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
this in-person presentation with the public present, I think is really important.
Yeah,
keeps
so
that
if there's
communication
anything
open.
significant that we feel like we should come to you about, I'm happy to come back and do that. If a time comes when you would like to have us come back before we get in touch with you, we're happy to do that too.
Great. Thank you.
Sure. And just know, it's important to us. It really is. It's important to leave that site in a state that's pleasing to everyone.
Any other commissioners? Commissioner Schlegel?
Pretty much nailed the question there that I wanted, but just because it's not on a agenda,
Sure.
you know, these we get a lot of emails, a lot of calls. I just want to reiterate how important it is for us to have that kind of open dialogue, and I can't thank you enough in advance for
Sure,
for
duly
making sure
noted.
that happens.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Commissioner Frazier?
Like Commissioner Campana said, excuse me, we've heard downstate at many MML meetings that there's companies out there, like you said, that they take over, they take all the fines and they just do everything and then they sell it. Like, I understand, you know, long story short, they take all the responsibility, they clean it up, take care of it, and then give it back or sell it back to you or something like that. And is that kind of what they do? They basically do all the gut work for you and then not for you to just, if a company like that, they just basically do all the gut work, do everything, take all the responsibility, and at the end, when it's cleaned up, they give back to you or sell it back, whatever it is? Anything about that?
There are companies out there that do that, and you know, again, I guess that's always a possibility. But I can tell you, so far, we've taken the approach that we're going to try to manage and control that ourselves. We, you know, certainly for some of this work, like the hazardous waste abatement, we're not experts in that, so we do have to contract a lot of that work out. But we're very on top of how that work goes. You know, nothing happens without our approval, and we certainly do our due diligence when we're hiring contractors to do that kind of work for us.
I agree. Thank you very much. It's good to know that you guys are on top, keeping an eye on things and doing things well, because a lot of buildings in this area have been torn down.
I understand.
Left there. So it's good that you guys are keeping on top of things and basically do all the outside cleanup first and then, you know, get rid of all the coal and whatever else you gotta get rid of. And then go after the inside, go after the building and start doing whatever you gotta do with that. And how about the two cement tiles? Those could be, I mean, I don't know, it's like, I'm into cement, but are those gonna be left standing at there? I'm just curious. I think those would be little big cuts. I think those would probably be left standing to do something else with, you know, or
I
that's down the road.
It is.
Because you got till 21 to do anything, so I agree.
Again, I'm not trying to evade
No.
any answers to questions. We just don't know the answers.
Oh,
to
that's
those yet.
good, because I heard that, I did read in the report that you're gonna still, use that part of the building for fly ash, so you're gonna
Exactly.
distribute fly ash. That's good, because that's a big asset to everybody that's in the concrete business. I mean, there's trucks to come up the river to
Exactly.
get that, so it's good for a couple companies to work with. It's great for you guys to keep doing that, and I wish you luck, and we'll see you when you build a We Energies hotel. Let's come back in a year.
Maybe a golf course. What you know? What the
Great.
heck.
There you go. Golf course and hotel, there you go.
Anyone else? Well, let me clean up then with a couple of questions if I can. The coal unloader has been sold to Cleveland Cliffs, correct?
We're in the process of an agreement to do that. Yes.
Will that be used in the future to unload coal or to unload limestone? Do you know?
I do not know.
Okay.
Now we can follow up with an answer to that question for you.
It would just be curious to know what the intended use of that would be.
Okay.
Notionally, and I'm asking for a real swag here, but about how long does it take to actually tear down a plant like that? I mean, you've done it in the past, you've had other similar sized plants come down, and I understand there's a huge number of variables. But is that a project that takes 6 months, a year?
I would say
Year and a half?
it's multi-year. So
Okay.
probably more than one, less than 5.
I would hope.
And that's a wide range because I really don't know the answer.
And I'm certainly hoping that whenever they get ready to drop the stacks, they let us all know so we can be there to watch. But Thank you very much. I think you've
Sure.
answered our questions, and as other commissioners have said, please don't be a stranger here. Keep us in the loop. Let us
Absolutely.
know what's going on. This is a critical issue for Marquette. You know, the tax issue was one, and that's kind of, we know where that's going. But from a citizen perspective, everybody is interested in knowing how soon can that bloody plant go away so we can see other productive use of the area.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Yeah, we'll follow up with answers to those couple of questions that I was not able to answer
I
tonight.
appreciate that. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much.
That brings us down to a public hearing, and we have item 5, which is the public hearing for the single lot special assessment roll 586. Commissioners, that will require a roll call vote, so please remind me of that when we get there. Clerk, if you would please read the background.
Thank you, sir. Chapter 40, Section 40-21 of the City Code requires that, quote, when an improvement shall have been made by the city upon or in respect to any single premises, the expense of which is chargeable against such premises and the owner thereof under the provisions of this chapter, and is not of that class required to be prorated among several lots and parcels of land in a special assessment district, an account of the cost to be charged to the owner shall be reported to the city treasurer, who shall immediately bill the owner if known. The city code further requires that, when the city treasurer determines that a number of properties have had outstanding bills for a sufficient time, the treasurer shall notify the city assessor, who shall prepare a single lot assessment roll and schedule a public hearing before the city commission on that roll. Impacted property owners on the attached list have received notification of the time and place of the hearing in accordance with Section 40-21 of the City Code. Fiscal effect, $1,243.10 plus accruing interest and penalties. Recommendation, following the public hearing, confirm single lot special assessment roll 586 and authorize the mayor to sign the warrant. Alternatives as determined by the commission.
Thank you. I declare the public hearing open. Anyone to testify at this public hearing, please do so now. The public hearing is open. Anyone to testify, please do so now. Seeing none, the hearing is closed. Commissioners, what is your pleasure? Commissioner Campana?
I'd like to make the motion that we confirm single lot special assessment roll number 586 and authorize the mayor to sign the warrant.
Is there a second? Commissioner Frazier? Commissioner Campana, comments?
Just for people to know, this is a method for the city to collect money from people that owe the city for things such as they didn't pay for their fire inspection code, or they didn't cut their grass and the city had to go in and cut the grass. It's a minor irritation, but it has to be done, and this is the way they get it. Thank you.
Commissioner Frazier?
Sure, make sure you get a special pen to sign it.
Commissioners, any other commissioner comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify. Wait a minute, you've got me. I'm caught. Okay. Mr. Clerk, if you would please read the roll call, conduct the vote.
Commissioner Campana?
Yes.
Commissioner Frazier?
Yep.
Commissioner Hill?
Yes.
Commissioner Schlegel?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Reynolds?
Yes.
And Mayor Stonehouse.
Yes. Motion passes 7-0. Commissioners, that brings us to the consent agenda. And I will remind you and I that we also have a roll call vote necessary as part of the consent agenda. So as we accept the consent agenda, then we will conduct a roll call vote following to take that item. In other words, we'll take it all as a package. Commissioners, can I have a motion, Commissioner Mayor Pro Tem Reynolds?
I move that the consent agenda be approved.
Is there a second? Commissioner Schlegel?
I'd second the motion.
Mayor Pro Tem, any comments?
None.
Commissioner Schlegel, comments?
None.
Any other commissioner? Now, if we can conduct the roll call vote.
Commissioner Campana?
Yes.
Commissioner Frazier?
Yes.
Commissioner Hill?
Yes.
Commissioner Schlegel,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Reynolds,
Yes.
Mayor Stonehouse.
Yes. Motion passes 7-0. New business, that brings us to item number 7, which is the presentation to accept the Bicycle Friendly Community Award for 2019-2023. And I believe Mr. Stennis is doing that. Mr. Stennis, are you conducting the award? Background, I'm sorry. Clerk, background, please.
Thank you, sir. On May 14th, 2019, the League of American Bicyclists notified the City of Marquette that after review of their application for an award, that it was designated Marquette as a bicycle-friendly community at their silver level. Only 20% of the 475 communities to apply for a bicycle-friendly community award have been honored with a silver level award. This is the third time since 2010 that Marquette has achieved the League's award as a bicycle-friendly community, which is only awarded to communities with impressive commitments to bicycling. Applications are evaluated based on engineering, evaluation and planning, encouragement, education, and enforcement activities related to bicycling in our area. A report card with recommendations for improvements as a roadmap for even better bicycling was included with the award. City Planner David Stensis and Planning Commissioner Sarah Middlefelt were the primary application preparers and are here to present the certificate of award. Fiscal effect, none. Recommendation, accept the award certificate for display in City Hall. Alternatives as determined by the Commission.
Now, Mr. Stennis.
I'd like to present this award to the City Commission and thank everybody who has contributed to achieving this award, including the City Commission, Planning Commission, our staff, engineering, community development, the DDA, and several of our trail organizations and committed individuals in the community. Our 4 independent bike shops, small town with 4 independent bike shops is a great sign that we're doing some good things for bicycling. So
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
thank you.
I will accept the award on behalf of everyone that Mr. Stennis mentioned, but I will also make this point. Things only happen when everybody works together. Individuals can accomplish nothing, but groups and teams of people can accomplish anything. And I think this is an example how everybody worked together within the city of Marquette to be able to achieve this level. And of course, our next goal is gold. So,
A lot of work to do.
a lot of work to do, but
We're working on
we've
it.
got a lot of good people to do the job. Thank you for the work that
Thank
you've
you.
done. This brings us to item number 8, which is the proposals for sewer cleaning and televising services for 2019-2021. And roll call, or not roll call, Mr. Clerk, if you would please read the background.
Thank you, sir. Annually, the Engineering Department requests proposals from firms to clean and televise sections of the city's sewer system. This allows staff to view the inside of the pipe and find problem areas that can be corrected before sewer backups occur. Televising also aids in the determination of piping that will qualify for root control and the slip lining process. In addition, the piping is rated using a national rating system based on pipe condition. These ratings will assist the city's asset management and capital improvement plan process. This year, requests for proposals were requested for sewer cleaning and televising services to cover a 3-year period. Each firm was evaluated using a qualifications-based selection process and ranked numerically, with the highest ranking being the best. Evaluations were done by the city engineer, assistant city engineer, and the staff engineer. Evaluation criteria included the cost of each type of service, contractor's qualifications, staffing and accreditation, equipment to be used, etc. 2 firms responded, with the results summarized below. The Upper Peninsula Rubber Company received an average score of 95, and National Power Rodding had an average score of 68. Fiscal effect: sufficient funds to complete this project are in the current year's budget. Sufficient funds will be available for fiscal years 2020 and 2021, as these are approved on an annual process. Services will not exceed the planned year's budgeted amount. Recommendation: award a contract for the sewer cleaning and televising project to Upper Peninsula Rubber Co. for a 3-year period not to exceed that planned year's budgeted amount for the years 2019 through 2021. Alternatives as determined by the commission.
Commissioners, what is your pleasure? Commissioner Schlegel?
Make a motion to award the contract for the sewer cleaning and televising project to Upper Peninsula Rubber Company.
Mayor Pro Tem Reynolds?
Second.
Any other commissioners? Seeing none, let me just ask Mr. Whittington, who's our chief engineer, if he can add any background to this. I remember learning previously how effective it is and how much you can extend the lifetime of a sewer. You might comment to that.
The televising is a big bonus as far as DPW engineering related activities. It gives us a inside view of the pipe. We can look at areas that may be ready to collapse or have root intrusion and take care of those before they actually plug completely full. Another bonus to having that is this national accreditation where you condition rate the pipe, and you can use that for your asset management type of rating system, I guess you could say. The cleaning does help as far as that's what it does. It cleans out the pipe full of sediment and whatever materials may be in there. So it's an overall help to the city to have that information available when we want to look at future projects.
It's fair to say that this really does extend the city dollars as far as we can to maintaining the infrastructure we have.
Yes, if you can catch something when it's small, it's going to be a lot cheaper when it gets big. So yes, that's correct.
I note that it says this contract is for 18,000 feet of sanitary pipe each year, and then 10,000 of storm sewer. About how much, well, we'll start with sanitary. What percentage of, how much can you do, what percentage of the total is being done each year, roughly? Do you know off the top of your head? I should.
The 18,000 is probably a little high. It's probably going to be more like 15,000 just because of the way the prices came in.
Okay.
But as you know, we have, I think, 85 miles of sanitary sewer in the city.
Wow.
So that's just a little drop, yeah.
And I'm sure there's problems that have been in the past or get addressed or something that burst. How's the priorities chosen for that little bit, that 15,000?
What happened a few years back, we had got the SAW grant, and part of that grant was to televise all of our, well, not all of it, but a certain percentage of our sanitary and storm sewer system. It was anything from 95 and older, so most of that's been televised, so that's a good thing. So we're trying to pick up now from 95 to about probably 10 years, so 2008, 2009, I guess, is where we usually draw the line there. So then it kind of go in 10-year increments as far as coming back and looking at it again.
Thanks. It's just nice to know how this all works. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the commission? Seeing none, all those commissioners voting in favor of this measure, please signify by saying yes.
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 Any opposed by no? Hearing none, motion passes 7-0. That brings us to item number 9, sidewalk repair, replacement, and extension projects. Mr. Clerk, if you would please read the background.
Thank you, sir. This project will repair and replace portions of a sidewalk which have been determined by the Engineering and Public Works departments to be possible tripping hazards to the public. Continuing to keep sidewalks safe for the public benefits the city with its walkable city designation. Sidewalk repair is an ordinance requirement. Sidewalks are walked every year and inspected for conditions that may be hazardous to the walking public. Sidewalks that pose the greatest risk for a tripping hazard are priority for the replacement program. In addition, sidewalk is being extended on the 200 block of East Ohio Street on the north side to Pine Street. This will provide continuity to the sidewalk system and access to the public park. 3 contractors responded to our request for bids, and the results are summarized below. The engineer's estimate was $99,770. Arrow Construction's bid was $84,522. The bid from Primo Construction, Inc. was $84,819.50. And the bid from UP Concrete Co., Inc. was $93,624. Tabulation and checking of the bids found no errors. The fiscal effect: sufficient funds exist in the current budget for this project. Recommendation: award a contract for the sidewalk projects to Arrow Constructions in the amount of $84,522 at the unit prices bid, and authorize the city manager to approve the not-to-exceed amount of $100,000 to cover any unforeseen circumstances or to add additional locations to the contract. Alternatives as determined by the commission.
Commissioners, your pleasure. Commissioner Frazier.
I make a motion, make a motion to award a contract for the sidewalk projects for Arrow Constructors in the amount of $84,522 at unit prices bid, and authorize the city manager to approve the not-to-exceed amount of $100,000 to cover unforeseen expenses, circumstances, or anything else that may come up.
Is there a second? Commissioner Campana?
I'll second the motion.
Commissioner Frazier, further comments?
Good to get the sidewalks, the streets get repaired, and I think they give us the city discount in exchange for Mike, our city manager, helping out.
Commissioner Campana?
Yes, I would have to ask the city manager a question on this. That last sentence where they're going to put a sidewalk on the 200 block at East Ohio Street. This is a situation. That's it, right?
Yes.
It's the
It's
guy
one you asked me about last week that I didn't know the answer to.
Well, this guy or somebody who lives over there has been coming in off and on over 6 years saying, would you please put in a sidewalk? Because there is no sidewalk. So if you think that, and we've been putting them off, but he's slowly moved up to the top of the list now. He now has a sidewalk. So the city doesn't ignore you. They will get to it. But, I mean, we're talking 50 feet of sidewalk that we could very easily blow this guy off. But, we're going to do it for him. And it's a minor thing, but sooner or later it gets done. So I'm happy to see it here. Thank you.
Any other comments, commissioners? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. Any opposed by saying no? Hearing none, the motion passes 7-0. That brings us down to item number 10, street improvements, bituminous paving, and sanitary sewer replacements. Mr. Clerk?
Thank you, sir. The City of Marquette's approved capital improvement plan for fiscal year 2019 has prioritized streets that are in need of heavy and preventive maintenance activities to extend the life of the asphaltic concrete pavement structure. Proposed heavy maintenance activities include milling, thin overlays, curb repairs, and removal of undesirable materials. The heavy maintenance process will increase the surface life of the street by 12 to 15 years and thus prolong the need for complete street structure reconstruction. Streets that will require heavy maintenance activities include Birch Avenue from Waldo to Center, Clark Street from Longyear to the Ballfield parking lot, Cleveland Avenue from McClellan to the west end, 8th Street from Magnetic to the south end, Garfield Avenue from Waldo to Center, Grandview Drive from Altamont to Hampton, Lincoln Avenue from Jefferson to Cleveland, and from Center Street to 290 feet south of Wright, Lynn Street from Fair to Center, and it also includes overband crack filling in various locations throughout the city of Marquette. The preventive maintenance activities include the crack sealing of 6 miles of street. This crack sealing will prolong the street life by 3 or more years before heavy maintenance or additional preventive maintenance activities are required. This bid package was created to address priorities for heavy and preventive maintenance in our capital improvement plan and to replace those sanitary sewer Orangeburg laterals that reside in the same area of roadway. Bids for the project were opened on May 10th, 2019. 3 contractors responded to our request for bids. The results are summarized below. The engineer's estimate was $1,018,860.75. Oberstar Inc. Submitted a bid at $1,087,802.20, and as checked, that bid came in at $1,086,602.20. Smith Construction submitted a bid of $1,112,980, and Associated Constructors submitted a bid at $1,321,228.80. Tabulation and checking of the bids found errors on one of the contractor's bids. Errors were mathematical and had no bearing on the final outcome. Fiscal effect. This project was approved under the fiscal year 2019 budget. Sufficient funds are available for this project using this project's budgeted amount. This project will be part of the fiscal year 2019 bond package. Recommendation: award a contract for the street improvements, bituminous paving, and sanitary lateral replacements to Oberstar Inc. in the amount of $1,086,602.20 at the unit prices bid. Allow the city manager to direct the city engineer to look at adding streets waiting in the queue as to not exceed the budgeted amount of $1,243,523. Alternatives as determined by the commission.
Commissioners, your pleasure. Commissioner Frazier?
I make a motion to award a contract for street improvements, paving, and sanitary lateral replacements to Oberstar Incorporated in the amount of $1,086,602.20 for the unit prices bid. Allow the city manager and direct the city engineer to look at adding streets waiting in the queue as not to exceed the budgeted amount of $1,243,523.
Is there a second? Commissioner Campana?
I would second that motion.
Commissioner Frazier, further comments?
I think it's good we're getting some streets fixed, getting fixed, and I think Mike's gonna have a busy summer between running the city, helping with concrete, and helping with the sidewalks.
Commissioner Campana?
Nothing further, just happy to see these streets being fixed. It does happen, it's just a slow process. You know, sooner or later, we'll get to all the streets.
Any other commissioner comments? Commissioner Schlegel?
Just want to comment that we received correspondence from residents all the time about streets, and even or lately as about an hour and a half before the meeting tonight, we got another one, or at least I did. And it's nice to see that some of the harshly worded comments are being addressed in this latest proposal, and good to see us moving forward and keeping things in check.
Commissioner Hill?
Yeah, I want to let, a part of things taking time is, in fact, the budget process begins in August for what we just approved today. So it's almost the end of May. So the money was allocated in August and is approved today in May. That's how long it takes. So there's a chance to get in on the next round. Starting in August, come to our budget hearings. This is an invitation for everyone to come to our budget hearings, especially the capital improvement hearing, because that's where these decisions are made. So, and then we, to make sure that it's transparent and it's clear, we have this RFP, you have the budget, we had 4 contractors stand up and say, I want to try to do the work. So all of that takes a lot of time. That's where the time goes. But there is an opportunity at our August budget hearing meetings, which you all want to come to, and that's the place to have that input. Thank you.
Any other commissioner comments? Seeing none, all those voting in favor of the item, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. Any opposed by saying no? Hearing none, motion passes 7-0. That brings us down to item 11, Founders Pile Reuse Construction Proposal. Mr. Clerk, if you would please read the background.
Thank you, sir. As part of the Brownfield Plan for Founders Landing, various public improvements were agreed to be made and funded through the plan. The final public improvements required for the Founders Landing development project include redevelopment of the pier and reuse or removal of the existing piling structures. The project area is located on Lake Superior, east of and adjacent to the Founders Landing development, and south of the Lower Harbor Ore Dock. The north set of piles are directly east of Baraga, and the south set of piles are east of the Hampton Inn. GEI Consultants of Marquette was contracted to conduct a feasibility study in August of 2018 and found reuse of the piles as two public piers to be feasible. The City Commission held a work session on the subject in April of 2019, where GEI presented the pier concepts and findings of its feasibility study. At its March 4th, 2019 regular meeting, the City Commission approved GEI Consultants for the preliminary design phase for the Founders Landing Pier project. Since that time, the public has had opportunities to comment on the ongoing design at the Harbor Advisory Committee, the Arts and Culture Advisory Committee, the Marquette Public Art Commission, the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, and through the current community input survey available on the city website and through Facebook. A work session with the City Commission, GEI Consultants, and the Durocher Marine Division of Kokosing Industrial was held on May 22nd, 2019, where the preliminary design and budget was presented. Out of that session, there was a consensus that costs could be reduced if the southern pier were to be shortened by one section and the construction timeline were to be extended over 2 seasons. Staff is recommending the City Commission enter into a construction contract with Kokosing Industrial, Durocher Marine Division for construction of the piers at a not-to-exceed fee of $5,670,000 and enter into a contract with GEI Consultants for final engineering and construction oversight at a not-to-exceed fee of $200,000. Although these are not-to-exceed fees, both companies will be working to complete the project for less by maximizing logistical efficiencies, value engineering, and economizing surface amenities to best meet public input. Fiscal effect: adequate funding has been allocated through the Founders Landing Brownfield TIF plan. Recommendation: award the construction project to Kokosing Industrial Durocher Marine Division for construction of the piers at a not-to-exceed fee of $5,670,000 and award the final engineering and construction oversight to GEI Consultants at a not-to-exceed fee of $200,000 and authorize the city attorney to develop the contracts. Alternatives as determined by the commission.
Mr. Verito, I believe you wish to comment.
Frank Jeff Verito, these are my opinions. This updated proposal looks incredible at a glance. Missing, though, is any mention or depiction of a boathouse that appeared sneaked into the previous document. Based on the history of our boathouse fiascos, there's always a concern that it may be sneaked in onto the pier again, if not somewhere else. A separate public opportunity and depictions are requested for any additions to the piers that aren't shown in tonight's supplement. Proceeding with our piers with caution is the prudent way to go, so long as what we see is what we get. What's odd, though, is how much different the design of tonight's proposal is from the one we saw so recently ago. I don't really care about one over the other, aside from the boathouse not being there anymore. Please be sure to remember for once that I'm complimenting the plan as depicted, because some of you only like to recall the negative, but pardon my justified skepticism.
Commissioners? One more? Oh, I'm sorry. No. I will allow it, yes. Typically, you would not, because you're not.
Jan Cloutier, 1010 Pine Street. I do not understand the rationale behind spending $6 million+ on this plan for Founders Landing that may only be accessible for 5 or 6 months at max. Can any of you explain how this is going to increase revenues and quality of life for your constituents? I can think of a multitude of common sense improvements that could do just that at a fraction of the cost. How about improving the safety and quality of our breakwalls that could accommodate larger cruise ships to our community? Partnering with locals for shuttling services could be a win-win. Improving the parks we have with more handicap accessibility would warrant state and local funding and invite our Native American communities and local service clubs, for example, Lions, Rotary, Kiwanis, Masons, Veterans, and others, to join together to co-create access to all. Bridging together and honoring these sacred lands is a respectful start in showing our appreciation to the original keepers of this land we all treasure. Partnering with our youth and children's museum and centers on their dreams for community parks, curriculum in schools, and activities make a lot of sense. South Beach and Marquette will soon be in need of upgrades and new thought as these power plants retire. New thought, excuse me. How about an amphitheater somewhere? Maybe a community labyrinth, horse and buggy rides at select areas, community drum parks at the Island Band Shell and the Commons areas would be a multi-win-win for everyone on so many levels, and community gardens as well. Affordable housing is for our students and low income and homeless population is sorely needed. A couple of charging stations on Presque Isle would be a plus for motorized wheelchairs and access. Protecting and improving our water quality and erosion issues. As the rest of the country dries up, we are sitting ducks for a massive influx in population, which is bound to happen. Removing the fluoride from our drinking water from the 1960s is long overdue. Fluoride is a drug and a known carcinogen, and government has no business drugging our water. Ever wonder why so many people in this area have MS and other cancerous diseases? Could it be from the water? Can you prove that it doesn't? We can only move forward if we do it together for the greater good of all. Thank you.
Commissioners, what is your pleasure? Commissioner Reynolds.
I move that we award the construction project to Kosing Industrial and DeRocha Marine Division for the construction of the piers at a not-to-exceed amount of $5,670,000 and award the final engineering and construction oversight to GEI Consultants for a not-to-exceed amount of $200,000 and authorize the city attorney to develop the contracts.
Is there a second? Commissioner Frazier? Second. Mayor Pro Tem, any further comments?
Yes, a couple. One, this has been well before I even started as a commissioner 5 years ago. We've been talking about this, and before that time, this project has been in our brownfield and something that we have to do through the state of Michigan and the requirements as to this is brownfield tax monies that we're using towards this. And I'm excited. I mean, it's something that's going to be beautiful. It's something we have to complete, and every single rendering just gets more exciting. To Mr. Verito's comment, from what I understand, that has been removed from the renderings and will not appear in the future. And I hope that is the case too, because I also had that concern before. Other than that, that's all I got.
Mr. Frazier.
It'd be a good project to be done. It's going to give a lot of people access to the lake. Everybody comes to this town during the winter, during the summer, and looks at the lake and says, wow, what a beautiful lake. Can I walk out there? Other communities have that. I travel around the Midwest, and a lot of places have gorgeous boardwalks. People can walk out and check out stuff. So it'd be good for everybody to come out, enjoy the water, see things, stroll, relax, do it, and then also help out the community too, because a lot of restaurants are open downtown. They give people access if they're on a boat. They can come in, dock their boat, go up, eat dinner, lunch, whatever they would do at look at the Royal Christians, and then go back and take off. There's not many communities around the area that have that ability. Musing is Musing has availability. That's what the closest one that has that availability. No other places really have that availability, so it's great. Be a great little project. I'm glad you're getting. I think you're going to do it around the fall. Sometimes hope it's into fall. So it'll be a great thing for the city to have when it's open next year.
Any other commissioners? Commissioner Schlegel.
I think it's important to understand, because it's not in the wording here, how long this money's been set out there and the reason for it, I guess, just to answer that question, and maybe the city manager or staff might be able to help us out with that.
Yeah, we're getting close to 18 or 19 years here that we've been dealing with this. This concept of a marina or pier reuse was put into the original brownfield plan back then. And to answer a previous question, it is a requirement that we reuse those pilings or remove them with the DNR or DEQ. So we don't have a choice in that matter. And the commission, through the brownfield plan, acceptance of the brownfield plan, has agreed to reuse those pilings for the benefit of the entire community.
So, that being said, if I can follow up, the latest rendition has been really well received as far as I'm concerned. I think GEI has done a nice job with this. I'm looking forward to both companies working together to maximize the dollars spent here so that we can hopefully roll some of this back into do it so efficiently that we can see these monies just money saved basically because it's done that cleanly. So kudos to both teams. Look forward to seeing this happen. Pray for good weather.
Commissioner Hill?
And the online survey, is that still? Yeah. Do you want to speak to that maybe, George?
Please.
Yeah, so it was about a week ago, maybe a little bit more. We posted a public survey that the city has on their website. I believe it's right on the homepage. If you scroll down a little bit, you'll see a link to it. That survey will bring you to an online spot where you can go through, and there's probably a dozen or so questions that go through different amenities, use types, and times, and that sort of thing. There's also an open spot for comments on anything else somebody might come up with as we develop final design on this project. So we're looking for any of that final input. I think we're around, last I checked was around only 80 people, or around 80 people had gone into it. We've been trying to kind of get it out there on Facebook and through public acknowledgement of some of these meetings and such. So hopefully we'll continue to gain some. We're planning on keeping that open for another couple weeks here until we get to a point where we kind of need to stop taking comments so we can finish the design up on things. So.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's, so there's a chance for the folks to look at the designs as they are now and make suggestions on what can be included. There's a native plant list even on there, which is terrific to see, because the pier that's going to be closest to the Ordock is 90 feet wide. Is how it's in 30 feet sections. So, and the 30 feet closest to the Ordock is going to have access not only for power boats, but for so canoes and kayaks as well. So we'll finally have organized access for kayakers and canoeists inside the harbor, which is something I'm excited to see and excited to make use of when it's put in place. So that's another way to make sure that people can get out on the water. And it's my understanding from what was said at the last work session that the boathouse for the scullers asked that the boathouse be taken out. Is that so? Yeah, so that's fair to say. So the folks who initially had wanted the boathouse are now saying they're going to do something else, and so the boathouse was taken out because they asked the people who initially proposed it wanted it taken down. So that's fair to say. That was what was said at the last work session. So, there's multiple uses for this pier, but the Scullers Group is not going to have a permanent facility on the pier. And the thing I wanted to say was, the unfolding of the Founders Landing has taken decades. And I've said this at a previous work session, but I really hope, or at a Brownfield Redevelopment Authority joint work session, I really hope that in the upcoming year we can find capacity at that entity or within the city to present the entire historical picture of this development and how it's gone over the years, because I think it would help. It's like that story of everyone has a piece of the elephant, but no one knows the whole. I think it would be great to have it all laid out over time. It's taken 20 years to get here. Let's have somewhere for that whole story to be told. Thank you.
Any other commissioners? Commissioner Campana.
I feel that this is a good expenditure for the city because if for nothing else, if we don't do anything, we have to remove those pilings. And that would require $3 million to do it. And that would require $3 million taken out of our general fund, which impacts other projects within the city. The money that is going to be used to build these piers, as the Pro Tem mentioned just a little earlier, is brownfield TIF money. In other words, the money that comes from, the increased money that we get from the building that goes on down there is gonna pay for it. It does not come out of the general fund. So it's a good value for the money. So I fully am behind this project. Thank you, Your Honor.
Commissioner Smith.
I'm very much looking forward to this project. I will say we still need a name for this area. So if anyone has a bright idea, you can tell the city manager here. And
No.
I'd rather it not be the Founders Piling Reuse Project when all is said and done. Anyway, so if anyone has a great idea, we'd love to hear it. Thanks.
Anyone else? You may comment. Just wave your hand better so I can see you.
Maybe I can't. I think the staff that's running the control system is, oh, there you go, thanks. I just want to remind the commission of the financing scenario that we outlaid at the work session. The possibility, worst case scenario, that, and I know some people weren't there, but Gary laid it out for us that this project is largely dependent on the build out of Founders 1, 2, and 3. And there may be a time period when the tax revenue from those build outs does not meet the expenses, and we may have to carry those expenses for up to 2 years possibly, and then be repaid from those revenues after everything is built out. So just this commission, probably a lot of it will be in place, but just to remind you that there is a little snag there with the funding, but it should work out fine.
Anyone else willing to comment? If not, let me just make one. One of the speakers mentioned some great ideas that we could use money for and some wonderful things that the community can use. All of them certainly have great value. But unfortunately, the money that we're talking about here is encumbered money that only comes from the brownfield and must in fact be spent within the confines of that brownfield. So literally Founders Landing is generating the money, and the money can only be spent within Founders Landing for projects that were previously approved when that brownfield plan was put together. So unfortunately, we can't use it to fix streets, we can't use it to build amphitheaters, we can't use it to build those types of things. That would have to be general fund money, largely, that could be used for those activities. So again, it's one of those things that would make a lot of sense on one side to say use the money for these other things, but legally we cannot do so. So we're making the best we can with the available funds that we think everybody is going to find great value in as they get to use this facility. It's going to be quite popular, I believe, and something that would really be a gift to the citizens of Marquette and their opportunity to see their waterfront from a different angle, from a totally different position. We are literally adding several thousand more feet of beachfront, literally, by going up and down the piers on either side. You will have more opportunity to touch and interface with the water than you've ever had before, because we're getting more and more and more. And remember, we already have control of 95% or so of our shoreline. And this is only adding to that wonderful opportunity for folks to really experience why Marquette is here, and hopefully to gather some sense of the history not only of that project, but of that whole area and what it's meant to the city. Commissioners, I've spoken enough. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. Any opposed by no? Hearing none, motion passes 7-0. Commissioners, item number 12 is a resolution of support, and that's for the conveyance of the bottom lands, and that will be a roll call vote. I note that this resolution is necessary for the work for the piling field to go forward, so they are in effect linked. But again, this will be a roll call requirement. Mr. Clerk, if you will please read the background.
Thank you, sir. As part of the brownfield plan for Founders Landing, various public improvements were agreed to be made and funded through the plan. The final public improvements required for the Founders Landing development project includes redevelopment of the pier and reuse or removal of the existing piling structures. The project area is located on Lake Superior, east of and adjacent to the Founders Landing development and south of the Lower Harbor Ore Dock. The north set of piles are directly east of Baraga, and the south set of piles are east of the Hampton Inn. GEI Consultants of Marquette was contacted to conduct a feasibility study in August of 2018 and found reuse of the piles as two public piers to be feasible. In order for the city to proceed with construction of the piers, an application for conveyance of the Great Lakes bottomlands from the state of Michigan to the city of Marquette is required. As a part of the application, the City Commission is required to authorize the conveyance through resolution. Fiscal effect, none with this action. Recommendation, approve the resolution to convey the Great Lakes bottomlands from the state of Michigan to the city of Marquette for development of two public piers. Alternatives as determined by the commission.
Commissioners, Commissioner Hill? Commissioner Hill, I'm sorry, Commissioner Smith? My apologies.
I move that we approve the resolution to convey the Great Lakes bottomlands from the state of Michigan to the city of Marquette for development of two public piers.
Is there a second? Mayor Pro Tem Reynolds?
Second.
Excuse me, Commissioner Smith, any further comments?
This action goes along with our previous action, provide the necessary approval to do what we need to do for the
Mayor-
Founders Piling Project.
Mayor Pro Tem?
None.
Any other commissioner? Seeing none, all those in favor signify. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Campana? Yes. Commissioner Frazier? Yes. Commissioner Hill?
Yes.
Commissioner Schlegel?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Reynolds?
Yes.
And Mayor Stonehouse?
Yes. Motion passes 7-0. Brings us to the second public comment period. Comments may not exceed 3 minutes per person. Please state your name and physical address when making public comments.
Matt Lutenberger, 1406 Garfield Ave, here in the city of Marquette. I guess thank you for setting up all the funds to redo all the roads. Driving down Lincoln today, I saw the long straight painters going up and down, Lincoln. So I don't know how long those will last on the beat up roads between College and Fair, but please, thank you for doing that. The only request I would have is if we could in the future make timelines for any of these. I understand the budget process is long, but if while you're making the motion, you could say within the 2023 general budget function and all that good stuff. Anyways, I also want to say thank you for the Founders Landing changes. They really do. They reflect a lot of what I asked for, or a lot of what I found concerns about. I also, though, would like to take note, though, Mr. Frazier, not many people are walking from the lakeshore to restaurants, unless it's Sol Azteca and whatever one is below it, because it's a hill. We live on this huge hill. A trolley service that went up and down the hill would be a phenomenal attraction. Not only attraction, but help a lot of people. I mean, think about it. How many times have you literally walked uphill from the Ore Dock to, say, Washington, or all the way up to 3rd Street, the point of 3rd Street and Van Gogh's? These are things that we'd like to talk about. We're a cycling community. We like to talk about the cycling community. But yet, I also heard you say, Mr. Mayor, that everybody who came in here for the outdoor part of bicycling were taken as, not focus groups, but special interest groups. So we have a huge community, but yet you refused a lot of what they were asking for last session. I just want to acknowledge that 3rd Street is really dangerous, folks. Riding your bikes either up or down is extremely difficult. Please go with a partner, see what I mean. I love it, don't get me wrong. I love the mountain biking and I love doing what we do. It just seems that we are patting ourselves on the back with a lot of concerns still. The roads, for instance, there's a lot of potholes, there's a lot of fixing. I'm glad to see that we're doing that. At the same time, how come this wasn't brought up when you were taking money away from roads and putting it into a Lakeshore Drive or putting it into Lighthouse Park? I understand funds have to be allocated and they have to be pulled out for projects that come up surprisingly. I wish, though, that these projects don't get canceled for the extra $1 million that we have for that, the extra $2 million we're going to need for the pier. I wonder if we're doing a lot of things before we have the funds. Thank you.
Frank Chavardi, these are my opinions. May 13th, Mr. Schlegel accused me of looking silly for calling him out on his contradiction that he was trying to visualize the Parcel 2 plan and that it was done 100% properly. Too often, a member responds not realizing that everything he said was considered in the original comment. As the architect admitted, we know it will be done according to regulations, as not only clear in my comment, but that's what worries us. Mr. Schlegel diverted our attention by addressing only the part of a concern that he had a ready response for. We'd rather know why he voted for something he was trying to visualize instead of delaying the vote one meeting to let us review and comment on the drawings. My comment remains valid as written. If Mr. Schlegel wishes to dissect the testimony word for word, let's do it and see who ends up looking silly. Mr. Fraser said that a person who's critical of this board ought to run for election. This suggests the only way to evoke change is to be on this board. The trouble is there are only 7 spots, and many more than 7 of us strive to be heard. His suggestion is impractical. He's not thinking his responses through. Why have public comment if no one can make a difference? Like the woman who offered a great safety recommendation on the demolition ordinance, only to be completely ignored. Public comment is a mere formality. In fact, Mr. Campana and Stonehouse voted against closing comment. Our concerns are mere trivialities to them. Mr. Stonehouse mentioned the rules as his excuse for placing ego ahead of public process. In court, the recording of the comment would be played. A judge would compare it to all the nasty words that are spoken across hundreds of Michigan cities. Most who are familiar with the Open Meetings Act would say, "He interrupted a speaker for that?" The wording in the rules is too subjective and doesn't coincide with the tenets of the Open Meetings Act or the Constitution Mr. Stonehouse swore to uphold. What matters is what was actually said, not his interpretation. He needs to learn the rules for his own conduct before he asserts his subjectivity on us. The rules that Mr. Stonehouse cites stipulate that we have 3 minutes. The record shows that the full time was denied, as was my request to consult our attorney, because Mr. Stonehouse knew full well the attorney would not side with him. He owes me an apology tonight and 20 extra seconds at a subsequent meeting, or I will seek a legal opinion. This alleged malfeasance and mistruth potentially impact us all. And this board complains that we call the rail yard flounders when it was the people on the Founders Day committee that threatened to sue when this board approved a boathouse at the most scenically stupid location. We don't want to call it flounders. This board is why we call it flounders. It's an embarrassment, a disgrace to our founders. Shame on this board for compromising our rare opportunity. To answer in silence or divert public attention is not only indecent, but bolsters my allegation about the sheer arrogance we're subjected to.
Anyone else to address the commission?
Margaret Brum, 404 East Magnetic. I'm following up on some discussions we had earlier this year about the proposal to change the hours that vehicle access would be allowed for Presque Isle. There's no moral to this story. I just wanted to let you know that there were no changes made. The original sign remains the same. The day the island was opened, the island road was opened, was not a particularly pleasant day, as this spring has been pretty wet. And it was a particularly difficult day for my 91-year-old mother when she woke up. Difficult day. Had lunch. What are you going to do after lunch, Mom? I think I'll go back to bed. And then I mentioned to my brother that the island road was open. He said, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, it's been on the news. And it looks like it's open all the way around." And the next thing you know, my mother was wheeling her chair over, and I said, "What are you doing?" She said, "I'm getting my coat." And so instead of going back to bed, we went out to the island. and we drove around the island, and we discussed the important things about the island, which is every tree, every rock, every bump, every spot in the road where something important happened or where a tree used to be. In the first 4 days the island was open, 3 of those 4 days we went for a ride around the island. And by the way, this is from a woman who has a difficult time sitting in a car because of all sorts of arthritis ailments. So when I get up in front of the commission and I say it's important that we have vehicle access to the island, I just wanted to give you that follow-up, how important it was that having the island road open meant a great deal to us that week and continues to mean a great deal to us. It doesn't change, it doesn't go away. And I'm the first one to admit that you can love something to death. I appreciate that motive and mentality. You also can forget what's really important in life if somebody doesn't get up and tell you that this was important enough to get a 91-year-old woman out down the road and into a car. And I just wanted to end on that note that the beauty of the island transcends anything you can see with your eyes or hear with your ears or smell with your nose, the fresh lake. It's every time you go around the island, it's that trip on top of all the other trips you've ever made around the island. It continues to build. It's like a renewal and a refreshment of your soul. And because of that, the access has to be available to all, whether you vehicle, bike, walk, however you get around it. And I just wanted you to know that it's working, and I appreciate it working, and I hope it continues to work for as long as we're around. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else to address the commission? Anyone else? Seeing none, public comment period number 2 is closed. Commissioners, Commissioner Campana.
Thank you, Your Honor. It was a good meeting tonight. I'm glad that we have moved along the project for changing the pilings into piers. I think that this is a project that's going to benefit not only tourists, but most importantly, the residents of our city and our county. So happy to see that, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Commissioner Frazier.
I am too glad we're using the pilings they've been vacant for a long time, since the whole Lower Harbor used to be industrial. There's pictures all over town, how Lower Harbor is so beautiful now, and back then it was all industrial. The Matson Park was a coal dock. I mean, the whole Lower Harbor was just industrial. There were like 3 piers, the ore dock, many piers, so it's glad we're using them for something and using it for access for everybody. It's great for the citizens to enjoy it, and be good for Founders Landing. And Founders Landing does represent the founders of our Marquette, because before it was Founders Landing, it was just a railroad yard. I remember when I was a kid walking through there, it was just a railroad yard. So it's great they've redone it, and some people in the audience like to voice their opinion saying it blocks their view. Yes, you can see the lake when you're coming into town all the way up till you get over the hill, and your view's blocked for a little bit, but then you can see the lake all the way along the lake shore. You can see the lake as far as you can. And the person that loves to comment the most, he can say the lake no problem, because he looks over Matson Park from Ridge Street Hill. Just so people know, if you take a drive down Ridge Street Hill, up Ridge Street, you can see the lake just fine. And as far as, people not wanting to walk uphill, have you ever seen the 4th of July? 4th of July, tons of people go to the Lower Harbor and walk up and down the hills all over Marquette. And yes, a lot of people do walk from the Lower Harbor up the hills. They go to the 2 restaurants on the corner. There's many restaurants I've seen people walk all the way up through town. I have done it myself. I've walked down the sidewalk, walked up the hills. I've done that. A lot of people have done that too. And handicap passes, they can park at the top of the hill and walk. They roll, whatever they want to do. But a lot of people do access it. It'd be great for the community, for everybody to enjoy. Say if you have dinner up on top of one of the restaurants on Washington Street. Oh, let's go. It's a nice evening. Let's walk down the lake and get a nice view. Walk down the lake. Oh, let's go over here and take a walk. It's great, and it's good. We're great for the community to see. And I like the personalized comment, because he's been commenting for 20 years about the commission not doing their job, but he's never really run for office. And that's my point is, if you're worried about what the city does, run for office. If you get voted in, It's not our decision, it's the city's decision to vote you in. And you can voice your opinion as much as you want. Now, you know, he voices his opinion all the time. We get every mayor, every city manager we ever had, and they'll acknowledge that. They just shake their head and say yes. As far as Presque Isle, it's a great community. It's a great benefit for the city to drive around. I just visited another community in Door County. They've got a beautiful park too, but you have to pay to access it. You have to drive around. There's camping in there too, but you have to. That one thing the city will not have. The city has Lighthouse Park, and we have, you know, Presque Isle, plenty of parks you can drive through and look at for free. It's great for the community, great for everybody, and I hope everybody gets to enjoy it.
Commissioner Hill.
Excuse me. Lots of good things today. Culmination of decades of work. And so in the 6 months that I've been on the commission, roughly, we've moved on a number of shoreline projects. I am hoping that we might be able to turn our attention back to the other parts of the city now. We've spent a lot of time on what happens on the areas facing the water, and those are very significant areas, but there are needs in the day-to-day that I also think we might want to be paying attention to going forward. And this question of priorities and why are we paying attention to this area is a very significant area. There's a plan that's, you know, almost 20 years old that we have been gradually over time, and it has been amended a number of times. And those different amendments have meant that things have, what was going to happen down there has changed over time. And again, I'm going to commit to making that understood and out there about what those changes were over time and what's going to happen over the future. I also wanted to raise up, because I, at the last work session for the decking project and the pilings reuse project, the consultant GEI is going to create an operations manual for that space. So we're going to have a clear sense of what it's going to cost to maintain it. And they've done that for other projects for us. And so I'm confident going forward that not only are we going to get a great facility, but we're going to get something that we know how to take care of over time and not just have something be built and then what do we do? And then lastly, our next meeting is June 10th here in the City Commission. And the very next day, we're going to go on a capital tour to start to think about what gets done for 2020. So just to let you know, that process starts on June 11 with our capital improvement tour. So that the process is starting up almost immediately. And then on June 12th, just one more time, is the League of Women Voters is having their open house. Again, very important for folks to understand about voting. It's going to be at the Ordock this year, and hope to see you there. Thank you.
Commissioner Smith.
Having microphone troubles tonight, sorry. So the one thing I wanted to talk about, since I think we've kind of touched on everything else from the meeting, and I think we have done a lot of good work today. In the consent agenda, we talked about, or we approved, a lease for the Coaster 2, and it's a very exciting flagship for the city of Marquette. The Economides family originally restored this boat and did tours, and now it has been sold to a new family from, I believe, Washington State. And you can follow them on their website, which is coaster2, coasterii.org, or their Instagram at the Schooner Coaster 2. That's the Schooner Coaster II. It's fascinating to see them rebuild it live, and I think their goal is June 1st to be in the water. So I think he'll be doing a presentation soon, but that's one of the things that I found pretty exciting on the consent agenda this week. Thanks.
Mr. Schlegel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Excited to see the continued success for the city of Marquette and their biking accolades, and thanks to everybody that put forth the effort to obtain that silver status. Another great attribute that Marquette brings to the table. I'd like to congratulate all the seniors out there from at least Marquette Senior High and the alternative school, other communities as well. Those guys are all done with school, and please watch out as the kids will be running around a lot more frequently than They have been, because they'll be wrapping up school soon, so keep an eye out. And that's about it. Thank you.
Let me finish Commissioner comments just by describing a little bit. I was at the memorial service for Memorial Day at Park Cemetery, and it was a very moving experience, very well done. And sometimes the folks that put those things on, the groups that come together to make it work, I don't think get the recognition that they really should have. So let me do that. It was put together by the American Legion Post 44, which is our own post from Marquette. Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts were there participating. The veterans of foreign wars, the disabled American veterans, the 40 and 8s, the Army of the United States of America, the Marquette County Veterans Alliance, the Vietnam Veterans of America, the Gold Star Mothers. You know what a Gold Star Mother is? Anybody here know? A Gold Star Mother is a mother whose child, whose daughter or son was killed on active duty. That's a Gold Star Mother. But they participated in this ceremony. Likewise, the American Legion Auxiliary, Disabled American Veterans Auxiliary, and the Veterans of Foreign Wars Auxiliary, as well as the Marine Corps League. That's quite a collection of folks to come together to put together a memorial service for the city of Marquette, and I commend them greatly for doing that. I have nothing further. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Two things. One, you notice, I think Mr. Ludenberg mentioned the long line people are in town. Those are the contractors that are painting our center lines and our longer lines on the city streets. I'm kind of excited about it because it's the first time we've had it this early in the summer season. Usually we get it just in time for snow. So my thanks to Scott Cambenzi and the commission for getting that contract out early. And lastly, just and I don't know if I brought you up to date or not, but regarding Presque Isle Park and the hours that are there, we are leaving the walking and driving hours the same. However, staff was out about a week ago identifying areas that we can mark with boulders or bollards to prevent parking. And I know the city attorney's office, I'm not sure if Suzanne's aware, but I know the city attorney's office is working on an ordinance that would allow us to cite those vehicles if they're parked in an inappropriate location or illegal location, as opposed to putting signs around the island, just one big sign at the beginning of the island. So we hope to have that process in place very soon. That's all I have. Thank you.